What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to the Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very, very much for being here with me on this Wednesday, officially our 14th and final Wednesday podcast covering All Stars 4. It all wrapped up last week. We saw Laurel be crowned the winner, the champion, the sole champion of All Stars 4. There's been all kinds of discourse about it ever since. We broke down just that finale last week. We broke down every single episode 12 weeks prior to that, a season preview prior to that, and now here today we're doing the season recap and awards for All Stars 4. That is all. We are here to talk about the entire season. Obviously, spoiler alert for that if you haven't finished the season. I already just told you who won, but just All Stars 4. There's a lot to discuss on the Battle of the Eras season 40 front, as things have started to get announced in the last couple days. We've gotten cast photos, all of that. That's for another pod, another day. And we'll have a bunch of short form content coming out about that in the very near future. But today, All Stars 4, here's the agenda, pretty similar to most season recaps that we do here at the Challenge Historian. The agenda is as follows. First and foremost, we are going to talk about the direction this season took, because it definitely changed directions as far as the franchise as a whole, but certainly the All Stars is considered. So do we like the direction it took is our first topic. Then we're going to ask, did it meet the hype? It was a very, very hyped season. Expectations were through the roof. Did it meet that? And then we're going to go one and then the other of things that worked for or against the season, and that, I didn't really love. And then we're going to do a list of things that did work for it and that I did really love or enjoy. So kind of the bad first and then all of the good after that. Favorite storylines, least favorite, that sort of thing. Then we'll play the classic game of Do You Want Them Back for every single cast member very, very quickly. Not going to spend much time on that. Just a rapid fire list. Awards to follow. Best quote of the season, the Dan Renzi Confessional King or Queen. Best strategy, moment of the season, and of course, MVP of All Stars 4 will be crowned. And then we close it out by grading the season, comparing it to the All Stars 4, or the 4 All Star seasons now that we have, and that will be that. So a couple questions, high level like and dislike, game of would you like to see them again, all the awards, season grade, it's all coming here. Now, quickly though, programming notes, we are entering the off season. Eras was announced, as I said a moment ago, mid-August release date for that first episode over on MTV, about 7 weeks or so away. I didn't actually do the math, 7 or 8. I will be doing a lot of short form content in the very near future and between now and then the whole time, all about the Eras over on the YouTube channel, or here on the YouTube channel if you are watching now, and on the Instagram account. So make sure if you are an audio only listener and you want additional content, go to YouTube in particular, trying to get, we're so close past 900, almost to 1,000 subscribers. Hit that button if you haven't already. But YouTube and IG are going to be the place to get most of that content. I will be reaching out to some cast members for some potential interviews between now and the debut of that season. And I hope to be doing a 4-part series that is either going to be 4 podcasts or just one long podcast and 4 separate videos over on YouTube, where I cover each era, how they've defined the eras, and talk a little bit about those, kind of, what we did during the rewatch for every single season. We talked about like where the challenge was, basically kind of bundling that all up and only talking about that topic, that idea for each of the 4 eras, and maybe even also doing a real team by team breakdown, a little more in depth than our typical season preview. So there's going to be a ton of stuff coming, both kind of historical stuff, hopefully a couple interviews here or there, and certainly a lot of eras season 40 preparation. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening or watching. Thank you as always for being here. I can promise that the next 2 weeks, there will be no podcasts, only short form content and things like that. The 17th of July, we'll be back with something. Not exactly sure, but there'll be 2 weeks off here, and then we'll be back up and at least getting you something, 1 pod a week, if not multiple, and multiple videos and a bunch of short form and all of that good stuff. So thanks as always. Love you as always. Let's get to what we're getting into today. All-Stars 4 season recap and awards. Here we go. Let's dive in. Kicking it off, as we said we would, with do we like the direction this season took? And what I mean by that is the game has transitioned back to being carnival games, summer camp with friends and enemies both there. It kind of happened like this, maybe this was a one-off, maybe this is only in All-Stars and not flagship or elsewhere, but we'd been noticing it without noticing that it was a trend. And then this season kind of slapped us in the face with it and made sure that, with that final, especially, that we knew the show was different again. It was back to what it maybe was a long time ago. And the whole anyone can win mantra was actually true and real. And it lived up to that. We had seen the little seeds again without realizing that maybe they were seeds or that it was going to continue, moving so far down this spectrum. But on All-Stars 3, on USA 2, certainly on BFank, even back on Ride or Dies, with eliminations, with a lot of the daily challenges, and with elements of finals, we saw much more on the carnival game type of side versus the sporty, athletic games type of sides. Yes, those finals all definitely still had running and carrying. This one did not. But as far as eliminations went, certainly, and even a lot of the daily elements, there was a lot more that looked like what we now got on here on All-Stars 4. And then the culmination of it was just this final here. Do we like that? I actually do. It does not need to be a sport. It maybe should never have gotten as sporty as it did there for a while. And I think the main reason I like it is it opens the talent pool back up, once again, to be able to make stars out of anyone, because anyone can go far in the game. You need to be able to go far in the game, be in a lot of the episodes, to be able to really, really stand out and be a star. Like, think of Nerys on BFank. Like, it doesn't work if she goes home in episode 4 or 5 because she's getting her butt kicked and stuff. Now, she can kick butt in the sporty side and the carnival side, so maybe not the best example, but I think, as a recent big star that the show has, has created or has created for herself, is a good example of, yeah, we would have been like, Nerys is great, a lot of promise, but if she goes home in episode 4 or 5, it's not. Nerys is one of the new faces of the show. And so now if it gets a game, anyone can win, anyone can go far in it. That opens you up for a lot more possibility for new stars to be made. And, the only thing that's tough about it is that the message was a little muddled because the casting was muddled. We talk about this going into the season and a couple times throughout the season, and definitely last week on the finale of just like, the cast moved younger in challenge years, younger overall, but also mostly younger in challenge years, more of those sporty flagship type of people, the folks that were working out and training and really getting ready for this. And as we did that, we also moved back away from the sporty, need to be training, athletic side of things. So it was just kind of this mixed message that made it seem a little weird. I'll be fascinated to see what Battle of the Eras in All-Stars 5 look like, if they are more like this, if this was a one-off and it goes back to, hey, Battle of the Eras, we're going to have the hardest final of all time. You have no idea what these people are in for, that sort of thing. It's more this, that grueling final built back in, headbangers, no headbangers, et cetera, et cetera. What are those going to be? I really, if Eras is like this, then that, I think that means that the show is like this for good. And again, I think I'm okay with that. It helps the longevity of the cast members, which is needed right now with less and less new ones that people seem to be willing to give a chance or find interest in. It helps make, making the new stars more accessible, as we said. And honestly, it makes the job of production a little bit easier, a little more straightforward. And it's something that fans have said they wanted. Fans have rallied against the whole "it's a sport now" thing for the whole time that we felt like it has been a sport, And so I think it's a win all around. And I just think it's something that, as always, it's change. Even if it's change back to something, it's change, and change takes some getting used to. Now let's ask the second part of this question. Did the season meet the hype? And the answer is pretty easy. It's no, it didn't. And it's okay to say that. You know why? Because I'm not saying it's a bad season. In fact, I think it's a good season, and we will, by the end of this podcast, have given it a grade that is a good, upstanding grade. No spoilers. Wait till the end of the podcast, stick around and see that. But the reason we can say, and it's fine to say it didn't meet the hype, is because the hype was out of control. The expectations were through the roof. Now, is that in part due to just us, the fans, and folks like myself talking about it and wanting it to be the greatest thing ever? Yes. Is it also due to the fact that we waited a year and a half and they semi-shelved it and moved other seasons in front of it and kind of built it up of like, this is the one, like they really clearly wanted, we want to go All-Stars 4, season 40, All-Stars 5. Like, we want to have this little heater of a moment. We want the year 2024 to be unbelievable. We're using this. This is the best thing. We heard it from so many cast members. And so it was built up in our own minds. They built it up for us. But either way, most people went into this thinking this is going to be the greatest challenge season in a long, long time. And it was good. So it did not meet the hype. It did not meet the expectations, but that does not mean that it was some horrible season or anything. It just means that, you know, maybe we need to set our own expectations a little bit better and always remember it's a show. They got to market this thing. They got to try to get as many people to watch it. So it could be the greatest thing ever and they're going to tell us it is, or it could be fine and they're going to tell us it is, or it could suck and they're going to tell us it's the greatest thing ever. That's what they have to do. That is their job. So for specifics on why maybe it didn't quite meet the hype, let's transition into the next big topic. Things I liked, things I didn't like, things that worked for the show, things that didn't work for the show. We're going to start with the negative side of things that worked against the show meeting its hype, being an all-time great season, some things that I didn't love, kind of just a mixed bag on the negative side of the pro-con column, if you will, in no particular order, no weight to any of these, just a run through this list. First one, Tony going home in episode 3. That hurt in such a big way. Tony was one of the big returns to have, and especially with this huge, this just dominant female cast and the male cast that was maybe a little bit lacking in star power. Tony was one of those, I think, along with Leroy, that was like, well, we got Tony back, so like that's kind of all that matters over on the men's side. And then suddenly the start of episode 3, he's going home, and you know, hopefully for everything, whatever he left for, I don't even remember at this point, was settled and the best possible outcome was had. And I'm glad we're going to get to see him again very soon. But, you know, it really took away from this season, I think, in a big, big way. Same Janelle going home. Maybe Janelle wasn't the star power Tony was coming back in, but Janelle going home and the way she went home and us not getting the full story, being able to see as to, you know, what went down that drove her to the point of wanting to leave. A woman we know from past experience to be plenty tough, plenty thick-skinned. Like there a lot more than what we saw went down to push her to be like, I would rather just not be here. And that hurt the show because, one, we lost a good competitor. We lost a chance at, you know, an elimination, the whole thing. It's never good when someone quits. But also it just kind of was like, well, I kind of feel it's one of those situations that we've had a bunch of them in the last, you know, half dozen or so seasons on each form of the franchise of like, I know you don't want to show certain things. I know it's probably for the best because you have all the information and I don't, but there's got to be a way to be able to tell us, to fill us in, to show us, and to do it in a respectful manner, I guess, or a manner that is more educational or helps us as the audience, understanding and empathetic versus like end up just piling on someone. I think that's what they were trying to avoid. And so we don't know. And that definitely made things a little weird. And it impacted the main story, Cara versus Cam and Cara versus Laurel and Nicole, but especially the Cara versus Cam part of it seemed to have as much to do, you know, came out of that vote for Ayanna, but seemed to come out of like the reason behind that vote and why it mattered to Cam had to do with the whole situation around Ayanna that we don't have the knowledge of or the context of. And so now we're like, you know, over here, people like me are like, well, all Cara did was not throw away a vote on the person Cam wanted when it wouldn't have mattered, to just all would have done is pissed off an alliance member. That seems like so minor, but there's so much more to it, and there's this context that we're missing, and we needed it to understand the biggest storyline of the season. So that really hurt that. And then add on top of the fact that this the biggest storyline of the season, we kind of don't have the context at the beginning of it to fully understand everything that's going on and the relationships and how they've changed in the house. But this very talkative cast outside of the show One, didn't touch on the Ayana thing at all, I think because of her now current day, present day situation. But then everything else they were willing to talk about, and all of them contradicted each other every which time you listen to Laurel or Kara or Cam. Mainly just you listen to Kara, you listen to someone else on the other side, or then sometimes you listen to a Ryan or someone else that was an innocent bystander, if you will, and you feel like you're getting all these different versions of the story. You don't really know exactly what to believe, how much validity to put in each thing, and it feels like what we ended up watching was a blurry view of one specific angle of this picture that a few other people tried to give us a non-blurry view of after the fact, but it just ended up being kind of muddled. Then next thing, Rachel out episode 4. That might actually be one of the biggest ones. Like if I could change one thing that I could think would turn the season up, even, dial it up, make it that much better, I think Rachel having a longer run, not though, her beating Kara somehow, maybe that wasn't those two, or even if it was just, a better elimination, a more entertaining elimination, because her going home, we didn't really get that much time with the Mean Girls trio. And as excited as we were excited for that trio because Rachel was back. Veronica and Tina had been on All Stars, been around a little bit lately. And so it was really about Rachel. And so then her going home right away like that, it kind of diminished things a little bit. And of course, Rachel and Kara, the elimination was just, it was a letdown. I'm down for all the Carnival game like eliminations. That one in particular, though, I was just like, this is silly. We have two of the best competitors in the history of the game. Neither of them have thrown a throwing axe or whatever it was. And so now this is just silly and random, and one of them's going to go home. And it just, it's a letdown. Next thing, Laurel and Nicole ending up in a good place in the show, but knowing in real life it was horrible. And, so the whole time we're sitting here like, I want to root for Laurel because I know what happens with this situation. But now she's yelling at Kara. And now I'm all mixed message on who should I be rooting for? Who should I be rooting against? And that impacts the fun that could be had when you're like all in on like, I'm rooting for this person. It's not because I dislike anyone else. I've just chosen this person during this season, these storylines. I want to root for this person. This season, it was really hard to pick a side, to really full throat root for someone if you weren't already coming in just as like, I'm a Kara stan, I'm a Laurel stan, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing can change my mind. Second to last thing then, Adam and Avery romance never appearing on screen. That's on me. I wrongly assumed it would. I didn't, get all the proper info, but we knew they were together after the show. They're together right now, I believe, still to this day. And that's lovely and wonderful. And so I just wrongly assumed, hey, it started on the show, and we got the one scene of them having, a connective moment, talking about family past and things like that. But so that's on me. But there was no, Leroy and Cam were there, so we had that. We had the power couple of power couples in the challenge world. We got to talk about Kingston and the next future child and everything else. That's all great, but it isn't like the most romantic fun thing. So it's really like we had Laurel and Nicole for romance, and that wasn't super exciting. And then finally, one winner. I don't like it. I never have. I don't think I ever will. Most, if not all, of the outcomes of a one winner season, all the externalities that creates, I think are bad in my opinion. And when it's capped off by a final that felt a little too built on advantageous, advantages given out, my mind, hasn't changed. Laurel's a champion. Plenty of finals have had things like that, things to point to of like, well, this person's lucky, or there should be an asterisk, or this, that, or the other. That's just kind of life in the challenge. So Laurel is a champ. Laurel's the deserving champ. No asterisk needed, none of that. I can dislike that there's one winner. I can dislike that there was those kind of outsized advantages that were a bit arbitrary, and still fully defend the fact she's the worthy champion of the season. If anyone thinks otherwise, I think they're wrong. But I don't like one winner. I never have. I really, really hope this will be the last time. I doubt it will, but I hope this is the last time that we see that. Now to the things that did work in favor of the season and all the things I loved about this season. First and foremost, Kara, Laurel, Nicole, and Leroy all getting to the end. Huge boost. I mean, I know the main storyline would be different if they weren't, there for very long. They would have picked different storylines to kind of make the main storyline, but they wanted, they probably came into this wanting Kara and Laurel to be a main storyline, if not the main storyline, and them making it all the way to the end certainly gives you that. Leroy making it to the end, at least one of Leroy and Cam making it to the end, gives you that storyline that you're hoping for going in, be able to play out over the whole season. So that really, really helped from production and certainly me enjoying the season. Second, the Jay redemption arc. It worked on me. I enjoyed it. I was excited for it. I know it was a bit polarizing. Some people thought it was really cool and fun. Some people thought that it was a joke and why would they invite him? And I'm guessing a lot of those people, if you fell in one of those camps, you may be confirmation biased your way through this and still feel the same now. I might have been one of those. I was excited for it, and then I thought it was fun, and he did a great job, and I'm looking forward to him back, or hopefully having him back. Spoiler for one of the people in the section coming up here of would you have them back. Next thing that worked for the show, or I loved, there were a handful of very real, like quote, real world style moments. For example, like Brandon telling Kara, we're not friends. We haven't spoken in 8 years. Like, stop saying that. Like, there's the game and there's real life, and you're conflating these things. And, you know, that moment was like this very real biting moment of like, oh shit. Like, yeah, okay. This just, we stepped above the game for a second there and got some real life intertwined in. And there was a handful of those moments, and I really, really loved all of them. Next on the list, the role players absolutely balled out. And kind of under the radar balled out. Like, as much as, you know, the stars that they came in being like, these are the stars we're bringing in for this season, we're going to have them carry the season. They mostly did for the most part. But the role folks really, really stepped it up. Like, Derek was great. Jasmine was amazing. Ayana brought entertainment and interest, certainly. Steve and Ace, I thought, were fantastic and fun the whole way through. Ryan, even Flora's confessionals, you know, the first half to 2/3 of the season, very entertained by, even if, you know, by the end it was like, this was probably a bad idea, but it was still fun while it was. Next thing, then, the dramatic swings of twice over, both, you know, as much of a letdown as Rachel versus Kara, the elimination was, we still can look back on this season and be like, both Rachel and Cam win their star, win an elimination, get their star, and get the upper hand in the house, immediately followed by the next episode turns around and they're back in there and they're losing to Kara. That's pretty wild swings and, you know, pretty explosive and fun and interesting. So that's a really good thing. Next up, how much this meant to Kifla in particular. It was proof that, you know, All-Stars can still do something really special for an OG, can, you know, just how much he loved the experience, how much he loves being back a part of the challenge family, the reception he got from the fans and everyone else. It was just really cool and really fun and warms your heart in a big way. And, you know, that was a major part of the first season of All Stars, was giving those types of moments to folks from way, way long ago in the show's history. And so I loved, even with this cast that, again, is much younger in challenge years, being able to introduce an OG like that from 25 years ago and have that kind of reception and have that kind of gratitude from him is just amazing and really warms the heart. And then finally, the Cara Maria show is a good show. It's just a good show. You know, it can be frustrating to the rest of the cast and it can lead them to all want to kind of ostracize her in the house and ruin some relationships for her. That's fine. But I like watching the Cara Maria show, and they very much set out to make the Cara Maria show for All Stars 4, and I had a good time watching it. Now let's play Would I Like to See Them Again? Every single cast member, very quick, rapid fire here, little to no commentary on any of these. And a lot of them we will be seeing again very, very soon. We already have that confirmed. We're going through the list, men first, women second, based on where they finished, because that was the list that I pulled up to write down everyone's name. So that's how we're doing this here. So rapid fire, here we go. Steve, yes, I want to see him again, and we will on All Stars 5. Ace, I adore the man. I love the man. I would love to interview him and talk to him about the challenge, life, and everything else. But this was as good as it was going to get. I think it's a no. Leroy, yes, and we will see him on Battle of the Eras. Derek, a surprise yes for me. I think I explained that one 2 episode recaps ago. But yeah, I was not thrilled coming into this season. Totally turned around, won me over. I would like to see, I think his story has one more season at least left to tell. Adam, yes, and we will on All Stars 5. Ryan, No, but we will on Eras. I think we've run the course. The story is the story. I love Ryan. I think he's great, all-time great role cast member. But I think the story has run its course. But that's too bad for me, being actually not too bad because, again, I like Ryan. So we'll see him on Eras. Jay, yes, I need one more. I want the story one more to conclude the whole thing. Brad, look, I'm good, but I think he needs this game and this found family in a real way, and I want the best for him. I love that guy, so yes, and we will also we'll see him on Eras. Kifla, I'm good with it being one and done for the OGs. Like Kifla, I'm a fan. I'd be okay with one more. As I just said, it warmed my heart seeing the reception he got, seeing how much it meant to him. But I do think it is kind of a one and done scenario there. Brandon, yes, and we will on Battle of the Eras. Cyrus, I'm good. We've seen he's 2-3 times now in the All-Stars world. The OGs, all the respect to him, love him to death, but we're good there. Tony, yes, and we will on Eras. Tyree, I'm good. I did appreciate that he got the comeback. I wish it would have lasted more than one episode, but we're good there. Laurel, yes, and we will on Eras. Kara, yes, and we will on Eras. Nicole, no thank you. No one has went from a higher high for me back on Vendettas or Final Reckoning, whichever one, where I was like, this woman just came in here and created a love triangle with Cara, Maria, and Laurel. This is unbelievable. This is amazing. How is this even possible? And then look where that got me and the rest of us here all these years later. So that's a no. Veronica, I'm good. It's Queen V, original face of the franchise, all the things I say all the time. We're good with her on the challenge. Get her casted on some of these other shows that she would be brilliant and wonderful on. Traitors, Villains, all that good stuff. Avery, yes, and we will on Eras. Flora, that's a no. Cam, yes, if she wants to. Definitely would love to see her back. If she, is in the mind and the spirit to get into it and be like, Leroy, your turn to stay back at home. Let me go kick some butt again. Tina, I want one more, which we're getting on Eras, and then I'll be good. Jasmine, yes, please. Rachel, yes, please. And we will on Eras. Ayana, sending love and support her way. As always, love her in her ongoing journey. No, we're good on the show. Janelle, yes, because I feel like she's gotten an absolutely raw deal on All-Stars 2 and now 4. So I do want to see her back. That's the list. A lot of yeses, some no's, a lot of people that we will be seeing very, very soon in August on Battle of the Eras. Award time. All right. Big time awards, full season awards. Tried to keep the nominees semi-minimal here. Did the best we could. We'll go through these as quickly as we can. And we will start with the best quote of the season. Chronological order nominees here. Episode 1, Flora, quote, looking at these competitors, I don't know them, but I already shit myself 3 times, end quote. Good stuff. Episode 3, Kifla, quote, I was telling someone it's like you mess around and you meet this girl in one night stand, and then 25 years later, somebody 23 and me you, say what up, pops, and try to build a relationship again. Unbelievable from Kifla. Episode 3. Also, Jasmine, she's been very, how do I say this nicely? She's been toxic as fuck. I can't find any sage or holy water, so I need Rachel to be a priest and take her out. That was in reference to Ayana and the elimination. Episode 6, Cam, quote, look, I'm not about to sit here and try to decode Nicole's thoughts because I can barely understand what Nicole says, so I know for damn sure I can't understand what she thinks, end quote. That is just a double-layered burn right there. And speaking of burns towards Nicole and then back, episode 8, Cara, quote, Nicole, you can't even talk. You need subtitles. Followed by in episode 9, I will still admit, and it still makes me giggle, a vicious comeback during another Cara Nicole fight. Nicole, quote, you better not choke because no one here likes you enough to give you CPR. And quote, it's great. You got to give it to her. In episode 12, TJ Lavin, the man, the legend himself, quote, God put me on this earth to do 2 things, ride bikes and blow air horns, end quote. Of all of those, we are going to give the award to my guy, Kifla, telling someone it's like you mess around and meet this girl in one night stand, and then 25 years later, somebody 23 and me you and says, what up, pops, and tries to build a relationship again. Unbelievable stuff from Kifla. Love, love, love it. He gets the quote of the season. As for the Dan Renzi Award for Confessional King or Queen of the Season, look, she went home halfway through, so it makes it a little tough. There's an argument here, For Cam, maybe a little bit, who lasted a little longer. Maybe you just have to kind of give it to Cara for being there the whole time. I don't know the confessional numbers, but she damn sure had the most on this season and did say some really good stuff and was a great narrator, this, that, and the other. But we can't. That's not in the spirit of the Dan Renzi Award. Unlike the MVP, you don't have to necessarily, you can have an outsized impact to the point of winning this without being there for more than half of the season. Jasmine is the Dan Renzi Award confessional queen of this season. A couple extra samplings of Jasmine's work this season, other than the ones that were just in quote of the year nominee. These could have been there from episode 4, both of these. One episode, we got all this greatness. Quote, it's just sand and dust and everything in my mouth and eyes. I've got titties in my mouth, feet everywhere, butts everywhere. I'm about to see Jesus, so go ahead and say my eulogy at this point. And then second one, quote, all this blah, 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 baby tantrum type of crap. I just want to find a pacifier and stick it in her mouth so she'll shut the fuck up for 2 goddamn seconds and take a nap. Jasmine was on one while she was there. Wasn't there for super duper long, but I'm glad she was there, and I hope to see her again. Dan Renzi Award, confessional queen of the season. It is. Best strategy of the season. This one, I didn't do a good job. This is on me. I didn't do a good job throughout the season of actually, I kind of half-assed, to be honest, this award episode to episode, and there wasn't always a lot of great strategy to go by. Cara for the fierce defense and working the numbers in her favor a couple times over in nominations. Definitely should be nominated here for kind of understanding the star and how it was going to work from the beginning and defending it that way. Cam certainly being all gas, no brakes from first nominations onward. We talked a lot about it in the first episode or two. When no one else was willing to talk, she just goes right for it, says, this is what I want, and you should all do that. Okay, great. We're all doing that, and really, really ran things and had a control on the game. But ultimately, this is playing the results a bit. But, I've got to give the best strategy to Laurel. Not going into elimination versus Cara. If she goes in, there's a good chance she loses. I would have put that 60-40 in Cara's favor. It was a kind of a toss-up elimination that I think was slightly better suited to Cara with the height under the grate and everything. And we found out from Ryan when he's on Zach's pod, that was a big discussion. Laurel actually was like, I think I'm going to do it. And Ryan and I think Nicole talked her out of it, was like, I think you're going to lose if you do. And so, she can share the award. They can come up on stage together with Ryan and Nicole for talking her through that. But, in her head, both knowing I might lose this and there's at least one more chance for me to get into elimination. I've got people here on my side that could help me do that. And in the back of her head, knowing with all that challenge experience, I feel like I think she was banking on they're going to put another star in the rotation and I'm going to go get it. And that's exactly what happened. So yes, it's playing the results a little bit, but ultimately, she wins the season. And I think she has a good shot at going home there if she doesn't make that decision. So in the moment, we couldn't believe it. We're stunned. She didn't stand on her word, but it worked out and she gets the best strategy of the season. Now, 2 big awards. Moment of the season. Again, most iconic, most memorable. It's not favorite. It's not best because that, it's a lot of negative moments sometimes that make up the iconic ones or the memorable ones. And so that's the better way to think about this. As always, we say if there was a bracket with one moment from every season in the history of the challenge, great, most infamous moment, most memorable moment, what is the nominee from this season? That is a way to think about this award. A bunch of nominees here, some of them more just small things I want to point out one last final time, other ones true legit nominees. Episode 1, the walk-ins. Seeing the Mean Girls walk in together, seeing Cara and Laurel walk in side by side, seeing Cam and Leroy come in together, all of that amazing. Nominee 2, episode 2. The combination of episode 2 and 3, Leroy walking out on Ayanna, Jasmine going full Bride of Chucky, as she says, on Ayanna, and that entire situation, certainly a big memorable moment from the season. Third nominee, episode 6, Nicole changing her mind in that they allow it. Veronica talking Nicole out of, once down in the sand, saying, no, bring Jasmine down here, go against her instead. Veronica, a finalist, Nicole, a finalist, both of who gave stars to Laurel that it, gave her the advantage that probably helped her win this. Very different if Nicole takes out Veronica there. If they don't allow her after, they shouldn't have allowed her after making her decision, be talked out of it and going the other way. Huge moment. Fourth nominee, Ace telling the tale of elimination that no one thought was fun, especially Brad in episode 7. Next nomination, Cara in episode 8 consoles Laurel, tells off Nicole, yells at Nicole a little bit, and then gets yelled mercilessly, however you say that word, gets yelled at by Laurel, just out of control Laurel during nominations. That all happened in one little episode. That's certainly a standout moment. Episode 9 then, Laurel saying no to the elimination we just talked about, and Cam going home as a result. Episode 10, Ryan and Jay, the Ocelots joint confessional. It was a small one. It's not like a real nominee, but it kind of was in my heart. Episode 11, TJ driving them to the final, bringing the Winnebago back. That whole part, loved it. And then episode 12, Steve forgetting the rules in the moment where it's like, Steve's going to win this. And then Steve is definitely not going to win this, and Laurel's going to win. And yeah, I'm going to definitely remember that. Of all of those, I chose to come into recording this podcast without actually picking, and now I have to pick live on air what the moment of the season is going to be. And I don't want to do my guy Steve like that and say it's him forgetting the rules. I think the thing that will be the most memorable about this season, the thing that will be the first touch point for me, is honestly going to be Laurel saying no after she built up 2-episode long plan to take her star and then take her out and then gets the win, is up there ready to go, and is ultimately talked out of it, says no, and it ultimately sends Cam home and propels Laurel inexplicably to the final and to the win. I think that's got to be the moment of the season. Sound off in the comments below if you're on YouTube, or DM me on Instagram if you're just listening audio-wise if you disagree. Now to the MVP, the big award, the one that really matters, the one I need to start making trophies and mailing them out to people for. The MVP, as always, we're going to do a Gone Too Soon, honorable mention, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Gone Too Soon, the category for those that were making an MVP-like impact, but just happened to go home, a third of the way through, half of the way through, not far enough to be really in consideration for the MVP of the season. But if you were stuck around, they were in pole position while they were still there. 2 people make that list, Jasmine and Rachel. Jasmine was fantastic in her return on this season. Loved everything about it, as was Rachel. Don't think we got enough from either of them, but both were certainly getting MVP points, getting on episode MVP ballots those first 3, 4, 5 episodes while they were both there. So they get the Gone Too Soon section. Honorable mention, Ace, Nicole, and TJ. TJ's got to be in here. He did an incredible job, and I don't think I can put him in the top 5 because I feel like it should be strictly cast members only. But he is a cast member. He's just the host cast member. And if I could, I probably would have maybe slid him into the 5th spot. I think back on Battle of the Seasons, the 5th season of the show, when I was doing the rewatch, I think I did give Eric and Mark some MVP love, even like a 5th or 4th place finish there. So maybe I'm allowed, maybe I'm not. I make up the rules and I don't know the rules. So TJ, honorable mention. Ace, I just thought was really fun and enjoyable throughout. And then Nicole, as much as we all might have been rooting against it and disliking it, was a lot of the entertainment this season. So she's got to get an honorable mention. 5th place then, Laurel. I know she won. Again, this is not who had the best season. That would just be the person who won every single time. This is the most valuable, the one if you took them away, the season would lose the most. And I think Laurel has to be on the ballot, but does for me come back in 5th. And most of that has to do with, again, just not being super interested and enthralled by the love story gone wrong storyline with her and Nicole. 4th place, my guy Steve. He was great throughout. He brought comedy. He had 3 wins, so he was, right in there, thick of the storylines in multiple episodes, and then he was right there at the end, in the thick of the story of the final. He was interesting in the politics of the house, the whole thing through. His bag thing that he made that I forget what it's even called. All of it was great. Steve is in 4th. Third, Leroy. Second, Cam. They're not a package deal on this list but together they were, they're the best package that the challenge has to offer. But they are still individuals within the game and individuals on the MVP ballot, and both deserve their place individually and collectively. Is third for Leroy, second for Cam. Drove storylines, drove alliances socially in the house, were interesting, were good in the confessional booth, and just loved watching them on my screen, loved learning more about their life together. All of it, good showing from them, not quite the true MVP level showing. There was always going to be one MVP. It was preordained before they built the show for her. Cara Maria is the MVP of All Stars 4. She, again, I don't have the confessional counts, but it's definitely the high. I can't imagine anyone had more than her. She was entertaining throughout. She was in the thick of every storyline, whether she wanted to be or not, whether anyone else wanted her to be or not, as far as the cast was considered. And it was the Cara Maria comeback, and it was great. And I had a great time watching it. And Cara Maria, by far, for sure, is the MVP of All Stars 4. One more thing to do then, and that's hand out the final grade for the season, the fourth All-Star season that we have graded. We did not give All-Stars 1 was in tandem with Spies, Lies, and Allies, the first season we ever covered here on the Challenge Historian, and we didn't give it an actual official letter grade. All-Stars 2 and 3, we gave let's see, what did we give? A B- to All-Stars 2, a B+ to All-Stars 3. Where will All-Stars 4 fall on the scale? As always, female cast, male cast, sport grade, show grade. Those are the 4 subgrades it's not just an average of them, but it is some guidance of then what the overall grade for the season would be. Female cast split up. We had heavy hitters Laurel, Cara, Veronica, Cam, and Rachel. Solid contributors Nicole, Avery, Tina, Jasmine, Janelle, Ayana. One dud in Flora. Male cast, heavy hitters Leroy and Brad, and that was kind of it. Solid Steve, Ace, Derek, Adam, Ryan, Jay, Keefla, Brandon, Cyrus, Tony. Only one dud, I would say, Tyree. And so female cast, I'm giving it an A-. That's 5 heavy hitters in a cast of 12 people. That's very, very good. There's only one dud. That's a really, really good cast. It's not quite an A or an A+, all-time stuff that a couple of seasons have reached with the female cast, but it's definitely in the great category, which is, anywhere in the A's. So slides in there with an A-. Male cast, we're going B-. It's a lot of solid contributors, not as much of the star power, but not really any duds. And so it's a B-. It's certainly better than passable. That C range. Again, I grade strict grader over here. We don't just give out A's for everything and say everything's fantastic. We're very, very strict and literal over here. So B- for the male cast, A- for the female cast. The sport grade, I loved the dailies and I loved a lot of the eliminations. It's just that the Cara Rachel elimination just taints my image of the eliminations as a whole so much. I loved so many of them, and I loved the carnival nature of the elims and the dailies for sure. And I thought a lot of them were really good designs. We talked about them each and every episode all the way through. The final being 100% carnival games just took me a little, by surprise. The outsized advantage aspects, lowers things a little bit. The one thing we somehow didn't talk about this whole podcast, I can't believe it, because I'll probably do a follow-up to my video I did, right before this season started about the star twist, the skull twist, trying to fix the challenge by making that the best possible twist. The star twist on this season did work. It was mostly almost completely successful and entertaining, which is unbelievable. We didn't have any of the problems that I thought maybe could crop up with the throwing of the challenges, this, that, or the other, the bad incentive structure. It all worked out. So overall sport grade, I give it a B. It's nowhere touching the A range, but it is very quality, just really solid, good stuff. That's the definition of a B. Show grade, we're going B+. There was a lot of highs. There were some lows. It's buoyed by just, the joy of seeing a lot of these people back on the screen and in action. A lot of the highs were just like, this is amazing. I can't believe Rachel's here. I can't believe Cara's back. I can't believe this, that, or the other. But there were a lot of high highs. There were a lot of really entertaining things, and there were a lot of really intense moments, but there were also some lows, and there's some things that were just, again, some of the bigger storylines were a little bit of a drag or a little bit missing context. There is a version of the season, I think, where if Tony sticks around and if Ayana doesn't cause the kind of rift or Janelle to quit or whatever the hell happened there, maybe this ends up much higher, like an all-time score here. Who knows? But B plus for the show grade. And so overall, we got a B plus, we got a B, we got a B minus, we got an A minus. Overall, I'm going with a B for the season. All Stars 4 gets a B. I think I'd rather watch All Stars 3. And I gave that a B plus. And here, on an average, we're right at B plus range with the other 4 grades there. And it just feels like a good season, not a great one. It was billed as a great one. And so maybe that's, that again, that missing expectations is making me think a touch lower. Maybe on rewatch a couple years down the road, I'll think, you know what, this is as good as All Stars 3. This is a B plus. This deserves to be at the top of the B range. But for now, I'm giving it a B. Again, I grade. I'm a harsh grader. I'm a literal grader. A B is a good score, a legitimately good score in my book. It puts it somewhere, firmly in the middle of all challenge seasons out there. And again, I do think it has a lot to do with, one, I didn't love, one of the biggest storylines, the Nicole Laurel thing was just kind of not super interesting or enjoyable to watch for me. And such high expectations, when you fall short of expectations, it leaves you that feeling, and that might be unfair and make you grade a little unfairly. So there's a chance this is a B plus down the road, but for today, it's a B. And for today, we're done with All Stars 4. But don't worry, All Stars 5 coming right around the corner, filming almost wrapped as we speak. Battle of the Eras obviously coming right around the corner in 7-8 weeks, whatever it is, in the middle, early to mid-August there. And so, like I said to start the podcast, one, first and foremost, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you for being here, for watching, for listening. Two, we will have a lot of short form content. So if you're just audio only person, go follow on Instagram. Preferably go over to the YouTube channel and hit follow. Let's pass that 1,000 subscriber mark ASAP. That'll be such a cool moment for this channel that is now, 3+ years old. And yeah, we'll have a bunch of short form content, a lot of it about Battle of the Eras and some other stuff coming on there. The podcast will be off the next 2 weeks, back on the 17th of July with something. Either at the beginning of our coverage of Battle of the Eras, previews, discussion, historical discussion of the eras, maybe some interviews if we can get them lined up. Something will come out on the 17th. I promise you that. So follow, subscribe. You won't miss it once we're back. Until then, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Peace.